Previously on A Love That Lingered, Arthur was forced to face the inevitable. Soldiers arrived at the manor, seeking noblemen to join the growing conflict. Torn between his duty to his country and his love for Grace and his family, Arthur wrestled with the weight of decision. Oliver, desperate to go in his stead, was brushed aside, and Lady Caldwell overheard the truth, her heart already heavy with grief. Grace did all she could to stand strong, but the shadow of war loomed ever closer. This is episode 24, The Long Farewell. The manor, once a place of celebration and warmth, felt strangely hollow in the days following Arthur's decision. The corridors seemed longer, the rooms quieter, and even the birdsong from the gardens carried a bittersweet note. It was as though the house itself had become aware of what was soon to be lost. Arthur spent those mornings in the study, letters spread across the desk, ink smudging on his fingers as he carefully detailed the responsibilities that would fall upon Grace, Oliver, and his mother in his absence. He left no detail untouched, from the management of the estate's accounts, to which tenants needed extra assistance before winter, to the rotation of servants who had grown reliant on his steady hand. But though his pen moved across the paper, Arthur's thoughts wandered. Each time the door creaked open and Grace entered, his gaze softened. She came often, sometimes with tea, other times with a smile that was brave but trembled at the edges. She would sit across from him, her hands folded in her lap, and watch him work, as though memorizing even the smallest movements, how he furrowed his brow when concentrating, how his lips pressed together when a decision pained him. The evenings were theirs. When the estate had gone still, and only candlelight flickered across the walls, they remained together. No words were wasted on reassurances neither of them could wholly believe. Instead, they clung to one another, the silence filled with kisses, whispered prayers, and the desperate wish to make time halt. Oliver, restless and unable to settle, drifted through those days like a ghost. He avoided Arthur's eyes, though his loyalty never faltered. He followed him from room to room, ready to fetch, carry, or organize, yet bitterness clung to him like a second skin. In the stables, he struck the wooden posts with clenched fists until his knuckles split, trying to bleed out the helplessness that consumed him. Lady Caldwell remained the quietest of them all. She moved about the manor with a careful grace, speaking only when necessary. To see her son prepare for departure dredged up the memories of her husband's absence and the ache of his eventual loss. She knew well what it meant to send a loved one into the unknown. As dawn painted the skies a pale gold, Arthur stood on the manor's balcony overlooking the gardens. The scent of roses mingled with the warmth of the approaching summer's day. His heart was heavy, but the resolve in his chest was firm. His decision had been made. What remained now was the farewell. The morning of his departure was not yet upon them, but its shadow lingered. Grace found Arthur in the library that afternoon, the weight of silence pressing down upon him. His sword lay across the table, freshly polished, though it still looked foreign there among books and candle stubs. She stepped closer, fingertips brushing the hilt, before her gaze lifted to meet his. "You've always belonged here," she whispered, eyes glassy. "Not out there." Arthur's throat tightened. "And yet, it is there I am called." Grace's lips trembled. "And if it takes you from me?" He reached across the table, taking her hands firmly in his. Then I will fight with every breath to return. You are my anchor, Grace, my reason, and I swear to you, I will not be lost so easily. Her tears spilled then, but she leaned forward to rest her forehead against his. They stayed like that for a long time, breathing in unison, as if willing their hearts to beat strong enough to hold them together. Meanwhile, Oliver could no longer bear the suffocating tension. He stormed into the room later that evening, fists clenched, eyes flashing with anger he could not contain. "This isn't right," he burst out, glaring at Arthur. "You're not a soldier. You're a husband, a son, a friend. You'll be nothing but a pawn in someone else's war." Arthur stood, shoulders squared, his expression calm but firm. "It is not about being a pawn, Oliver. It is about duty, about honor. I was raised to protect this land, these people." "And what of us?" Oliver snapped. His voice cracked, raw with emotion. "What of me? Do you expect me to stand here day after day and watch the family fall apart, to pretend I can fill your place when I cannot?" Grace reached for Oliver's arm, but he pulled away, breathing hard, his chest heaving with the effort of holding back tears. Arthur's own resolve faltered at the sight. He crossed the room in 2 strides and gripped Oliver's shoulders, firm and brotherly. "Listen to me, Oliver. I trust you more than anyone. You are not my shadow, nor a replacement. You are my strength. If I can step onto that battlefield, it will be because I know you are here, guarding what I love most." Oliver trembled, jaw clenched, but the words pierced through his anger. He lowered his gaze, finally allowing himself to collapse into Arthur's embrace. Lady Caldwell entered quietly then, her voice soft but steady. "You speak of honor and strength, Arthur. But never forget, bravery is not only found on the battlefield, it is found in the hearts you leave behind." Arthur's eyes closed as the weight of her words settled over him. For the first time, his certainty wavered, though he did not speak it aloud. The final night before his departure arrived, heavy with sorrow, yet wrapped in a fragile peace. Arthur and Grace retreated to their chambers early, unwilling to share a moment more with the quiet grief that filled the manor's halls. In the safety of their room, they let down their walls. Grace nestled against him, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "You'll write to me?" she asked softly. "Every chance I have," Arthur promised. He kissed her hair, holding her as though she might slip away. "And you must promise me something too." "What?" "Promise me you'll live, truly live, Grace. Do not waste these days waiting. Fill them with laughter, with light. Give me a home worth returning to." Her throat ached, but she nodded, clutching him tightly. "I promise." They lay awake until dawn, memorizing every touch, every breath, every whispered word. And when the first light of morning broke across the horizon, they rose together, faces pale but hearts bound stronger than ever. The courtyard filled with the sound of hooves as Arthur's horse was brought forward, its tack gleaming in the morning sun. The soldiers waited at the gates, banners snapping in the wind, their faces set in grim determination. Grace stood beside him, hand tightly gripping his, while Oliver and Lady Caldwell lingered just behind. No one spoke. Words were too fragile, too breakable in such a moment. Arthur turned to them, taking each face in as though imprinting them upon his very soul. He kissed his mother's cheek, embraced Oliver tightly, and finally cradled Grace's face in his hands. "I will return," he whispered, though his voice trembled. Grace's eyes shone with unshed tears, but she managed a small, brave smile. Then go, my love. Go and come back to me. With a final kiss, Arthur mounted his horse. The gates creaked open, and the soldiers began their march. Arthur glanced back only once, his gaze lingering on the manor, on the three figures watching from its steps. And then he was gone, swallowed by the road and the promise of war. The manor fell silent. Grace's hand slowly slipped from her side, fingers curling into her skirt as if to hold herself together.